You've a cruel little habit, and last week you did it again. Walked me right up to a door, breathed one bare word through the keyhole, and strolled off into the dark before you'd turn the handle. The word was magnetism. I've been chewing it for 7 days straight, so I've come to collect on the promise. What wakes up the instant a charge quits sitting still and starts to run?
And I mean to pay it out to the last coin. But let me stand the old world back up first, so we can watch it come alive. 3 nights running, every charge either sat dead still or got nudged once and left to settle. Still charges, standing fields, a frozen country you could map at your leisure with a pencil and never once have to hurry.
A frozen country, that's fair. And in every scrap of it, not one charge ever cared a straw whether I was moving or standing when I came to look at it. The push was the push, mover or not. So walk me gently into the thaw. What is it a running charge does that a resting one simply never could?
Let me set it in front of you rather than tell you. Fetch a magnet, an ordinary one, off the fridge door. Now bring up a charge, one of our rubbed balloons or a little charged ball on a thread, and hold it dead still, right against the magnet's face. The 2 headline actors of the subject, nose to nose. What does the magnet do to it?
Shoves it, surely, or drags it in. These 2 are the leads. They've got to have something to say to one another. It'll be the same as a charge meeting a charge. A push across the little gap, felt at once, no waiting about. I'll lean toward a shove.
Go and watch the real thing, though. Hold the charge still by the magnet's face and nothing happens. Not a twitch. The little charged ball hangs there on its thread, plumb and bored, right beside the strongest magnet in the house, exactly as though the magnet weren't even in the room with it.
Nothing? Truly nothing? That knocks me sideways a little. I had these 2 down as close kin. And you're telling me the magnet looks right at a charge and feels no quarrel with it whatsoever, so long as the charge holds still?
No quarrel at all. And feel how flat that nothing is. It isn't a faint tug you're failing to notice. It is flatly, exactly 0. The strongest magnet you own lays not the ghost of a finger on a charge that refuses to move.
A clean, total nothing. All right, that's stranger than a weak pull would be, but nothing at all from a magnet strong enough to hold my keys to the fridge door. So what on earth do I have to do to this charge to get the magnet to notice it's even there?
One thing, and one thing alone. Take that same charge and set it moving. Flick it, fire it, walk it briskly across the magnet's face. Same charge, same magnet, same gap between them. The single difference in the arrangement is that the charge is now going somewhere.
All right, and now?
Now it gets shoved. The very moment it moves, a force lands on it that wasn't there a breath before. A hand laid on it out of clear air that lifts away again the instant it comes back to rest. A force that wakes for motion and sleeps for stillness. Hold the charge still. Nothing. Set it running. A shove arrives.
Now that is strange in a way the balloons never managed. Every push I've met in my life was there, whether the thing moved or not. Gravity tugs the parked car exactly as hard as it tugs the rolling one. This force stops and checks first. It interviews you. It asks whether you're moving and only then decides whether it'll bother to touch you.
The manner this night is about. And look what it's handed you already, before we know a scrap about the force's insides. A moving charge feels the thing, and a resting one does not. A charge at rest feels nothing magnetic, ever, from any magnet however fierce. Motion is the entry fee. Sit still, and the magnetic world never so much as sends you a bill.
So this force is built unlike any other I've met. Motion is baked into its very definition. Gravity doesn't ask whether the apple's falling. The electric push doesn't ask whether the charge is running. This one won't so much as exist until there's motion to feed it. It lives in the relationship between the mover and the field.
A pact between a moving charge and a field. No motion, no pact, no force. It's the first push you've met that needs you to be going somewhere before it will even speak to you. Which raises the obvious next question. If a moving charge feels this, something on the far side must be doing the pushing. What is that?
That's exactly where I was going. There's a field here, isn't there, for the charge to move through, and somebody laid it down. It can't be the moving charge feeling its own motion. There has to be a thing already spread through the space, waiting. What is the magnet actually filling the room with?
Let me name what the moving charge is swimming through, because it's an old friend wearing new clothes. The magnet fills the space around it with a field, an arrow at every point, a real condition of the space itself, precisely the way a lone charge filled space on our very first night. Same grand idea, wholly new kind. We call it the magnetic field.
Hold on though, new kind, or the old electric field in a fresh hat? Because I already had a carpet of arrows around a charge. You're not just handing me back the same carpet and telling me to squint at it a different way.
A fair suspicion. And no, it's a genuinely separate carpet. The electric field grabs any charge at all and shoves it along the arrow, mover or not. This new one ignores a still charge completely, takes hold of a moving one, and then shoves it in a direction we've not even reached yet. Two different carpets laid over the same space, playing by different rules.
Two carpets over the one floor. Fine, I'll keep them apart. And this new one I read the old way, I suppose. Set something loose in it and watch which way the space decides to shove the thing.
You can see this one far more directly, and I'd wager you did it as a child. Lay a card flat over a magnet, scatter iron filings across the card, and give it a tap. The filings don't stay where they fell. They leap into arcs, little slivers lining up nose to tail, drawing curve upon curve that loop from one end of the magnet round to the other.
The filings jumping into those looping arcs? Yes, I remember it. The paper seeming to grow a grain all at once, everything combed into curves. But why the filings? Why should a scrap of iron care which way the arrows point when my charged ball ignored the magnet completely?
Because each little sliver of iron sitting in the field becomes a tiny magnet itself, a minute compass needle, and swings until it lies along the arrow at its own spot. So the scatter of them draws the field for your eye, each pointing the way its own patch of space points. Faraday's lines come round again, the lines of force, sketched now for a magnet.
Faraday's lines, drawn by 1,000 tiny compasses. That's a lovely trick. And I'd guess they carry the strength as well as the heading, the way the electric ones did. Where the little slivers crowd in thick and close, the field is fierce. Where they thin out and spread, it's gone soft.
The same reading, exactly. Crowded lines, strong field. Spread lines, weak one. And you can see them bunch up tight near the two ends of the magnet, where the field is fiercest, and fan out loose in the middle stretches. But fix your eye now on one thing the filings are quietly telling you, because it pays off enormously later on. Follow one curve with your gaze. Where does it start, and where does it end?
It doesn't seem to do either, does it? It rises out of one end of the magnet, arcs over through the air, dives back into the other end, and then, I suppose, keeps right on going through the inside of the magnet, back round to where it's set off. It closes up on itself. It's a loop.
A ring that bites its own tail. Pocket that, because we come back and collect on it hard later. For now, just plant it beside the old picture. The electric lines sprayed out of a charge and ran off looking for somewhere to land. These magnetic lines close on themselves. Whatever else a magnet turns out to be, its field lines are loops, through and through.
Before I shelve them, one quick thing about the picture. Does this field fade as I back away, the way the electric one did? Fierce at the magnet's face, and feeble by the time I've crossed the room.
It fades, right enough. strong up against the poles, where the lines crowd thick, and softening fast as you step back and they spread thin. The same thinning as before. A magnet's reach is a local affair. Wander off far enough and its field dwindles to nothing you'd feel.
Loops, shelved, fade, noted. But you keep saying the magnet makes this field, and the promise tonight was about a moving charge. So do I even need a magnet? Or can a bare charge, purely by running, raise one of these fields all on its own, with no magnet anywhere in the picture?
There's the question. And no, you don't need a magnet at all. Set an ordinary charge moving, a plain current running down a wire, and it makes a magnetic field of its own in the space around it. This was Ørsted's shock. He ran a current through a wire that happened to sit near a compass, and the needle swung aside.
The needle swung, so the running charge reached out and shifted a compass, the way a lump of magnet would. Then a moving charge doesn't merely feel a magnetic field, it makes one. That wire with the current running in it is doing the same job as your magnet on the fridge.
Both jobs. And that twinning is the engine of the whole thing. A moving charge makes a magnetic field. A moving charge feels a magnetic field. Set your charges running and they do the two at once. Write the field into the space around them and answer to whatever field they find themselves sitting in. Ørsted caught the making by luck, watching a needle twitch. Tonight, we chase the feeling.
Then give me the feeling, because that's the part I can't yet picture. My charge is running along, straight through this carpet of magnetic arrows. You promised me it gets shoved. So which way does the shove point? And don't spare me. Let me guess first, because I've got a strong one loaded and ready to fire.
I'd not dream of sparing you. Out with it then. Where does the shove land?
Along the motion. It has to be. The charge is barreling forward, the field's got its own direction, and a force is a push. So either it piles into the back of the charge and drives it faster, or it plants itself in front and slows it down. A push lives along the line you're travelling. That's every shove I've ever felt. Flag planted.
A firm flag, in the wrong field altogether. It is not along your motion, not a sliver of it. So try the other arrow in the room. If the shove isn't aimed along the way the charge is going, then surely it runs along the field itself. Up the line the filings drew for you?
Right. If not along my travel, then along the field. The charge gets tugged up the field line like a bead threaded on a wire, sliding along the arrow. That's my second bet, and I'll call it the safe one. The answer has to lie along one of the two arrows you handed me. What else is even left in the room to point at?
What else indeed? And there's the snare. You've been given two arrows and quietly told the answer must be one of them. It's neither. The shove doesn't lie along your motion, and it doesn't lie along the field. It points square across the two of them at once. Sideways to your travel and sideways to the field both, off in the one direction that is neither.
Sideways? Genuinely sideways to everything.
Genuinely. Square to your motion, square to the field, off along the third direction that neither of your two arrows was pointing down.
Sideways. Of course it's sideways. I had two doors. I bet the whole farm on both of them at once, and the force sauntered out a third one I never even clocked in the wall. It doesn't drive me on. It doesn't tug me up the field. It shoves me clean out the side, at right angles to every last thing I was staring at. That's not a force, that's a prank.
It's the oddest-mannered force you'll ever be introduced to, I'll grant you. But sit with the geometry, because it's cleaner than it sounds. You've two directions in play, the way the charge moves and the way the field points. Those two arrows lie together in some flat sheet. Call it a tabletop. The force stands bolt upright out of that tabletop, square to both. Off the table entirely.
Straight up out of the tabletop, the two arrows lie in. So if I'm running east and the field points north, both of them flat along the ground, then the shove is straight up, or straight down, off the floor completely. It wants nothing to do with the plane I was moving and pointing in. it escapes the pair of them by going vertical.
That's it. And which of the two it picks, up or down, is settled by a little rule of the hand you can carry in your palm. Lay your fingers along the motion, curl them round toward the field, and your thumb stands the way a positive charge gets shoved. A negative charge takes the opposite. We'll not fuss the handedness tonight. The marvel is that it's square to both, and the hand only names which square.
A rule I can hold in one hand. I'll take that on trust and not wrestle the thumb tonight. But hold on, if the shove flips the other way for a negative charge, then two charges of opposite sign, running side by side down the same track, get thrown to opposite sides of it. The one flung left, the other flung right, though they're travelling shoulder to shoulder.
Just so. Same field, same heading, but opposite signs, so the sideways shove parts them. One thrown one way off the track, one thrown the other. It's the same split you already knew from the electric world, where plus and minus went opposite ways down a slope. The sign of the traveller keeps its say, right on into the magnetic story.
The sign keeps its say. Good, that carries over cleanly. But square to both, I want to press harder. You said two arrows lie in the tabletop. What if they're the very same arrow? What if I run straight along the field, right up the line the filings drew? Then there's no tabletop at all, is there? The two directions have folded into one.
Then you found the first of three cases by pure thought, and found it dead right. Run along the field, and there's no sheet for the force to stand up out of. Your motion and the field are one single line, and the shove obliges by vanishing outright. Move straight along the field, and you feel no magnetic push whatsoever. None. You slide up the line clean and untouched.
Nothing while I run along it, so the force ignores the part of my motion that goes with the field. And I'll bet the mirror image then. If running along the field earns me nothing, then running square across it, slicing the lines at a right angle, must be exactly where the shove is fiercest.
Read right off the geometry, and right again. Cut clean across the field, square to the lines, and the sideways shove is at its strongest, the whole of your motion pressed into it. So there's the ledger, three cases in a single breath. Sit still, no force. Run along the field, no force. Cut across it, the largest shove there is. Every angle between slides smoothly from nothing up to full.
Sit still, nothing. Run with the lines, nothing. Cut across them, everything. So it's the part of my motion that slices across the field that earns the shove. The part running along with the lines is simply invisible to it. And if I go at some lazy diagonal, half along and half across,
then only the across half counts, and you get a middling shove. The field quietly throws away the along part of your motion and shoves on what's left. Aim more across, the shove grows. Aim more along, it fades. The force is forever asking one question of your motion. How much of you is cutting across my lines? And it answers to that alone.
How much of me cuts across? That's the heart of it then. And I take it the harder I cut across, the harder I get thrown.
Faster charge, bigger shove, in strict lockstep. Double your speed across the field and you double the sideways push. And a stronger field leans on you harder too, in the same flat proportion. Build up the field or race faster across it, and the shove climbs right alongside either one. How fast across the lines and how strong the field, those are your two dials.
Here's a small consequence I want to check first. Drop a charge from rest into a pure magnetic field. Just let it hang there, not moving. Does it feel a thing? I don't think it can. No motion, no shove, so it simply sits.
Untouched. The field has no grip on a charge that won't move. Give it a push from something else, and the instant it's moving, the magnetic force wakes and starts to steer. But magnetism on its own can never get a still charge going. It only takes the wheel once something else has set the thing rolling.
Two dials, and a direction forever off to one side. Now show me a real one, because I've been picturing an abstract dot. fire an actual stream of charge across an actual field, what would I see it do with my own eyes?
You'd see it bow. Send a straight beam of charge sailing into the space between the poles of a magnet, cutting across the field, and it doesn't sail straight through. It bends, curving off to the side the whole way across, drawing a graceful arc where you'd sworn it would go dead straight. The sideways shove made visible.
A beam that bows instead of flying straight, and the harder I fire it, or the stronger I make the field, wait, does a faster beam bend more or less? My gut wants faster to mean a sharper bend, since the shove is stronger. But I'm not sure I trust my gut tonight.
Wise not to. The faster beam feels the stronger shove, true, but it's also harder to turn, tearing along quicker, and the harder to turn wins out. It bends into a gentler, wider arc, not a sharper one. A direction this peculiar surely wears somebody's name.
It surely does. A rule this strange doesn't go wandering about nameless.
It carries Lorentz's name. The law of the sideways force on a moving charge is Lorentz's, and it plats the two forces of this course into one tidy statement. A charge feels the electric push, whether it moves or sits, straight along the field. And if it happens to be moving, it feels this extra magnetic shove besides, square across its motion and the field at once. One law, holding the still force and the moving force in a single hand.
So Lorentz keeps the old electric push and staples the new sideways one on beside it. And which of the two you feel turns on, whether you're moving? Good, that I can hold. But now something else is needling me, and it isn't the direction anymore. It's what a purely sideways shove could ever actually do to a body. Something about it won't sit still in my head.
Then chase it down. This is the piece it all turns on. Say it out plainly first. A force that always, everywhere, points square across your motion. Never a sliver of it aimed forward along your travel. Never a sliver aimed back against it. Purely, endlessly off to the side. Now, what can a push built like that possibly change about the way you're going?
Well, to speed me up, a push has to get in behind me, along my line of travel, and drive. To slow me, it has to stand in front and lean back against me. Both of those live along the direction I'm already moving, but this thing hasn't a scrap pointing along my travel, it's all sideways. So it can't drive me faster and it can't drag me slower. It can't lay a finger on my speed.
Keep walking. You're all but through the door. If it can't touch your speed, and yet it's a genuine force, laying a true shove on you every single moment, then it isn't doing nothing. It's plainly doing something to you. So what's the one job left for a push that's flatly forbidden to change how fast you go?
Turn me? That's the whole of it, isn't it? It can't make me quicker and it can't make me slower. So the one thing a sideways shove has left to do is bend which way I'm pointed. It steers me without ever driving me. My speed sits pinned, fixed, untouched, while my direction gets curved round and round. It's a hand on the tiller that never once reaches for the throttle.
There it is. That's what magnetism does to a moving charge. It steers. It never drives. Fire a charge square across a field, and the shove bends its path into a curve. And since the shove stays forever square to the motion, it keeps right on bending it, by the same measure, round and round, into a closed circle. The charge wheels at one fixed speed, its direction turning always, its pace never shifting a hair.
A circle. And you know, that rings a bell from the mechanics course. A ball whirled round on a string does the very same thing. The string hauls it toward my hand, dead square to the way it's flying, and the ball just circles, never speeding, never slowing, only turning. The string does no work on it, only bends its path. Is the sideways shove playing the part of the string?
To the letter. The magnetic force is the invisible string, forever hauling the charge toward the center of its circle, square to the motion the whole way round. And a pull square to the motion you already knew from that course does no work. It only wheels the thing around. Swap the string for the sideways shove and you've built the very same circle. No string required.
No string, and yet a circle all the same. The field does the whole job of the string without touching the charge or tying onto it. And if the charge has some motion running along the field too, the part that feels no shove, that part sails straight on, while the crosswise part keeps circling. So it screws forward as it wheels, a helix.
Just so, the free glide along the field threaded through the endless circling across it. And here's the phrase to carry out the door. The magnetic force does no work. Not a jot of it. It changes your direction always. It changes your speed, never. It changes your energy, never. It turns the arrow of your motion round and leaves the length of that arrow exactly as it found it.
A force that does no work? I do love that. You've introduced me to a force that turns up, makes a tremendous show of shoving things about, bends them into circles and screws and spirals, and at the close of the day has done not one honest jot of labour. All steering, no lifting, forever rearranging the traffic and never once shifting a crate.
That's the deadpan truth of it. And feel how sharply it sets this force against the one you already knew in your bones. Cast back to the electric push from those first nights. That one points along the field, so it gets in behind a charge and drives. Speeds it up, pours energy in, does real work, sends it faster down the line. The electric force changes your speed. The magnetic force never can.
So come back to that bowing beam. It makes fresh sense now. The beam sails in, bends through its arc and comes out the far side, going exactly as fast as it went in, only pointed a new way. Not a hair quicker, not a hair slower, just turned.
Same speed in, same speed out, and a brand new heading. The magnet is a bender of beams, never a booster of them. That's why it's the tool you reach for whenever you want to aim a stream of charge without touching how fast it flies. It curves the path and leaves the pace alone.
There's the clean split between the pair, cut in one stroke. The electric force lies along the field and works on you. The magnetic force lies across your motion and refuses to. One drives, the other steers. One fills the tank, the other merely turns the wheel.
Carry that couple and you'll never muddle them. And notice it lays an old worry cleanly to rest. No amount of magnetic wheeling can ever wind a charge up faster and faster for free. It'll send it round till the end of time, but round at the speed it arrived with. The books stay shut because magnetism never opens them.
That's a comforting little guarantee to slip in a pocket. And it clears up something I'd half wondered. You can't heat a charge just by letting it whirl in a steady magnetic field, because the sideways force does no work on it. The whirling carries not a penny of new energy in. It's motion rearranged, never motion added.
That's precisely why the sideways force is such a different beast. It shuffles motion about without ever paying for it, because paying would mean doing work, and work is the one thing it cannot do. Steering is free, driving costs. So the sideways shove is no tool at all for pouring energy into a thing, and a perfect one for aiming it, herding it, bending its path wherever you please.
Herding. That word snags something. If the field bends a charge round in a circle and holds it there, then I could use a field as a kind of fence, couldn't I? Pen a charge in, keep it wheeling round, and it can never wander off, held by nothing but the sideways shove.
A fence that costs nothing to hold up, since it does no work keeping the charge in. Set up the right field, and a charge circles inside it, trapped, looping and looping, without ever touching a wall. That's how you'd bottle a beam of charge, corralled by a fence made of pure steering.
Hopeless for feeding, perfect for aiming. I'll keep that pairing. All right, you've handed me one lone charge, wheeling by itself in a field. But a single charge trickling through empty space isn't a thing I bump into daily. Where does this touch the world I can lay a hand on? Where's the sideways shove hiding in my own kitchen?
Nearer than you'd think, and the bridge is a word you already own. What is a current in a wire? Charge on the move, a whole river of charges, all streaming along the wire together. And every last one of them is a moving charge sitting in a field, so every last one feels the sideways shove. They can't leap free of the wire, so they hand the shove straight to the wire itself.
So the wire gets pushed. Every little charge pouring down it feels its own sideways nudge. And since they're all penned inside the metal, they haul the wire along with them. Lay a current-carrying wire across a magnetic field, and the wire itself lurches to the side. The push on a billion tiny movers gathered up into one clean shove on a thing I can grip in my fist.
A thing you can grip, and a thing that turns half the world. That sideways lurch of a wire in a field is the beating heart of every motor there is, the trick that turns electricity into spin, into turning wheels, into motion you can put to work. Loop the wire, set it in a field, run a current through, and the two sides of the loop get shoved opposite ways, so the loop turns.
The two sides shoved opposite ways, because the current runs one direction down the near side of the loop and the other direction back up the far side, so the same field throws them apart, and a thing pushed at both ends in opposite directions spins on the spot. The fridge magnet and the sideways rule between them, cranking a wheel round. That's a lovely little engine.
And the shove on a single wire is feeble-mind, but wind the wire into a coil of many turns, and every turn adds its own push to the pile, so the little sideways nudge stacks up into a force strong enough to drive a fan, a pump, a wheel. That's the motor whole, a coil, a magnet, and the sideways shove, multiplied by however many times you loop the wire.
So half the humming machines in my house are this one trick, cranked round. The fan, the pump, the little motor buried in the drill. Every one of them a coil shoved sideways in a field, turned into spin.
Every one. And it isn't just spin either. Jitter the current back and forth instead of running it steady, and the wire jerks side to side in step. Pin a paper cone to it, and there's a loudspeaker pushing air at your ear.
Stacked, turn on turn until the feeble becomes fierce. That's how the trick earns its keep. But you told me the moving charge does two things, not one. It feels the field, there's the motor, and it makes a field, there's Ørsted's twitching needle. So a wire with current in it is broadcasting a field all the while it's busy feeling one.
Both at once, always. Which lets me set you a little knot to untie. If wire 1 is broadcasting a field, and wire 2, sitting nearby, is feeling a shove, then lay two current-carrying wires side by side, each broadcasting and feeling at the same moment. Work it through for me. What do the two of them do to each other?
They must push on each other. Each wire makes its own field, filling the space around it, and each wire sits square in its neighbour's field, so each feels the other's sideways shove. Two wires leaning on one another through nothing but the fields they're each pouring out. Run the currents the same way, and I'd guess they either pull together or shove apart, though which one I honestly can't call from here.
That's the build, and wise not to guess the direction, since which way they lean is a question for the night. We draw the field a current makes. Tonight it's enough that two currents push on each other across a distance, through nothing but the field strung between them. There's a field made by the one, standing in the middle, felt by the other.
Which is the balloons all over again, isn't it? In a fresh key. No reach across the gap. One lays the field down, the other stands in it and takes the shove. That refrain has run under every single night of this course. Never a reach, always a middleman doing the work. Magnetism just speaks it in its own accent.
Its own accent, the same sentence underneath. Now, take me back to that loop you had me shelve, hours ago it feels like. The field lines that closed up and bit their own tails. The ones the filings drew without a start or an end. You said hold it and we'd collect. We collect now.
I've been guarding it faithfully, so come back to it. What were those closed loops trying to tell me that I couldn't hear yet?
Cast all the way back to the electric field, the first one you ever drew. Its lines had two honest ends. They sprayed out of a plus and dove into a minus. The plus was a source, a place lines are born. The minus was a drain, a place they go to die. Every electric line begins on a charge and ends on a charge. Now put the plain question to the magnet.
The obvious one, where are the magnet's sources and drains? A magnet's got two ends. We even call them poles, north and south. So surely it's the very same tail. The North Pole is the source, spraying lines out. The South Pole is the drain, where they pour back in. North plays the plus, South plays the minus. Same picture, painted in magnetic colours.
It does look that way from outside. The lines do stream out near the north and gather in near the south. So push the picture where it's bound to lead. If north is a source of lines, the way a plus charge is, then there ought to be such a thing as a lone north. A north pole all on its own, a knot of pure source, the magnetic twin of a single plus charge sitting by itself. Go and fetch me one.
Easy enough. I take a bar magnet, north on the one end, south on the other, and I cut it clean through the middle. Now the top half keeps the north, the bottom half keeps the south, and I'm holding two lonely poles, one in each hand. A single north and a single south, divorced at last. There, one lone pole, exactly as ordered.
Now go and look hard at what's genuinely in your hands. You cut the magnet through, right enough, and the fresh end that had no pole a moment ago hasn't come out bare. The top piece has sprouted a brand new south face precisely where your blade passed. The bottom piece has sprouted a fresh north. You aren't holding two lone poles. You're holding two magnets, each with its own north and south, complete.
You have got to be joking. I cut the thing for the express purpose of splitting the two poles apart, and it just grew the missing ends straight back, on the spot, like some conjuring worm. So I chop again to be shot of them, and I'll get 4 little magnets, each stubbornly sporting both poles, as though nothing had happened. It's a swindle. There's no cut anywhere that corners a lonely pole.
There's the deadpan of it. Every cut, without a single exception. And before you ask, no, you can't win by grinding it to dust either. Crush the magnet to the finest powder your mill can make, and every speck of that powder is itself a tiny, complete magnet, north and south and all. Slice, snap, shatter, grind. Each fragment comes out entire, both poles present and accounted for.
And it isn't just little bar magnets that play by this rule, is it? A compass needle swings to point one way across the world. So the ground beneath us must be a giant magnet too, with its own two ends. And I'd wager it's the same tail. No lone pole to be found anywhere on it either.
The same tail, planet-sized. The ground under your feet is one enormous magnet, a north end and a south, and there's no lone pole hiding on it any more than on the scrap in your hand. Poles in pairs, from a filing of iron up to a world.
So there's genuinely no move I can make, no cut, no crush, no clever trick that ever leaves me holding a single lonely pole. The north and the south are welded together at every scale there is, which means the thing I reached for, the magnetic twin of a lone plus charge, flatly isn't in the world to be found. It simply doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a magnetic charge. No lone pole, no bare source, no naked drain. Poles arrive in north and south pairs, always, or they don't arrive at all. And notice the sharp contrast. A lone electric charge is the easiest thing in the world. You rubbed a balloon and made one, a scrap of pure minus all by itself. Charge comes alone happily. Poles never do.
That's the split then, drawn clean. And it's got to feed straight back into those looping lines, hasn't it? That's what the loops were trying to tell me from the very start, and I walked right past it. If there's no lone pole anywhere, then the lines have got nothing to be born on and nothing to die into.
Say it all the way out. If there's no lone pole anywhere in the world, then what is it the field lines simply cannot do?
They can't start and they can't stop. An electric line needed a plus to be born on and a minus to die into. A source at one end, a drain at the other. But there are no magnetic sources and no magnetic drains. No lone poles anywhere for a line to spring from or sink into. So a magnetic line has nowhere to begin and nowhere to end, and a line forbidden to begin or end has just one move left: close into a ring and run round forever.
A ring biting its own tail. The very thing the iron filings drew, explained at last. Every magnetic field line is a closed loop, threading out through the air near the north, arcing over, sinking in near the south, and carrying straight on through the body of the magnet back to where it started. No ends, no source, no drain. Loops everywhere you look. That's what no lone poles looks like once you draw it.
So the line doesn't stop at the South Pole and wait there. It dives in and keeps right on going, straight through the guts of the magnet, back up to the north to close the ring. The inside of the magnet is threaded with the same lines as the air outside, all part of one unbroken loop. There's no seam. The loop doesn't care whether it's passing through iron or through empty air.
One continuous ring, threading metal and empty space alike. And that's a proper law, mind, not a quirk of bar magnets. It's the second of the four great laws that, taken together, hold the whole of electricity and magnetism. Said plainly, without a stitch of arithmetic, there are no magnetic monopoles. So every field line closes into a loop, sourceless and endless.
The second of the four, so I'm collecting them as we go, the first was the counting law from the Electric Knights, the one about wrapping a bag round a charge and tallying what pierces the skin. And now this. How do the two sit together? They feel like cousins, but I'd like the family resemblance said out loud before I file it.
Cousins exactly. The first law says, wrap a bag round anything and the lines punching through it count up the charge trapped inside, because electric lines are born on charges. The second says, wrap a bag round any magnet you like and the count comes to nothing. Every loop that enters the bag somewhere leaves it again somewhere else, because magnetic lines are born on nothing at all. One law finds sources, the other swears there aren't any.
I like that pair stood side by side, the one taking a tally, the other forever coming up empty. So I walk out tonight carrying the second of your four great laws in my pocket. And it's a law about a thing that doesn't exist. That's a peculiar sort of law to own, a rule enforced entirely by an absence.
A rule enforced by an absence. That's the flavour of it. And you'd be startled how much of the deepest physics wears the same shape. I'll be straight though. People have hunted long and hard for a lone pole, chasing the idea it might turn up somewhere out at the far edges. None has ever been found. And so the law stands, as firm as any, on a thing nobody has ever once seen.
Never once seen, and yet you'd bank the law on it. That's a strong kind of confidence to have in a nothing. But it fits the picture too well to be an accident, doesn't it? Every loop closed, every line without an end, every cut that grows its poles back. The absence isn't a gap in the story, the absence is the story.
Hold on to that. And it leaves me one last debt to pay, one that sat here unspoken, and it's the door to the very last episode. You keep pressing on why a charge should feel a force only when it moves, and it's time I answered the itch underneath the question. Moving, with respect to what?
With respect to what? Yes, I let that slide by and it's been itching ever since. Moving only means anything measured against some backdrop, moving compared to the ground, to the magnet, to you sitting there. So when the force stops to ask whether I'm moving before it shoves, it must be asking, moving compared to what, precisely? And I don't think you'd raise it now, at this hour, if the answer were a dull one.
It's the opposite of dull. It runs deep, and I can only crack the door tonight. Here's the doorway. Take a charge sitting still in front of you. You measure the space around it, and you find a pure electric field. Arrows spraying outward, and no magnetism anywhere, because the charge isn't moving, so it makes no magnetic field. We're agreed. Now I get up and walk steadily past you.
You walk past, so from where you're strolling, the charge that sat still for me is now sliding backward past you, moving. And a moving charge makes a magnetic field. So you, up on your feet, measure a magnetic field wrapped round the very same charge that I, back in my chair, will swear to you is purely electric and nothing besides.
The same charge, the same instant, the same patch of space. You, seated, find an electric field alone. I, walking past, find an electric field with a magnetic one threaded right through it. And neither of us has made an error. The magnetism was never a separate substance parked out there. It showed up because I moved. What you call purely electric, I, on the move, see as partly magnetic.
So then which of us is right? Because we can't both be. Either there's a magnetic field around that charge or there isn't, surely. Unless, that's the trap in the question, isn't it? Is there a magnetic field here? Was never the flat fact I took it for.
There's the floor giving way under you. Both of you are right, each in your own motion, and that's the shock. Whether there's a magnetic field at a spot isn't a bare fact about the spot. It hangs on how the one asking is moving. There's no single true answer sitting underneath, waiting to be found. The question only earns an answer once you say who's asking and how fast they're going.
Then there's no special seat, is there? No one true observer sitting in the chair that sees the real field, while the rest of us see distortions of it. My still view and your walking view stand as equals, neither one the genuine article.
Just so, there's no privileged seat to be had. Every steady observer's account is as good as the next. The laws read the same from each of them. What shifts from seat to seat is how the one field divides itself into an electric share and a magnetic share. The thing itself doesn't change. The bookkeeping does.
So the two were never truly two. Electricity and magnetism are one single thing, and which face of it you meet depends on your own motion. The business of magnetism waking only for movement, it's because magnetism just is electricity, looked at from a moving seat. Set yourself moving, and part of what was pure electric field turns, in your eyes, magnetic.
And there it is. The shape, and no more. I'll make you leave it right there, because to earn it in full takes the last episode and a new notion of space and time laid down underneath it. That's Einstein's doorway, and it's the note the series closes on. Tonight it's a whisper, not a proof. Electricity and magnetism, one thing seen from two motions. Don't go spending it yet.
A whisper, carried and not spent. I'll hold it loose and not pretend it's proven, same as the light ripple you dangled on the very first night. But it does something to me even as a rumour. It means I haven't been learning two forces across these 4 nights. I've been circling one single thing, and tonight I watched it turn its head and show me the other cheek. That's a stranger week than I thought I was having.
A stranger week, and the better for it. So hand me the night back. The solid ground you've earned, not the whisper. And I'll tell you whether you caught it entire.
The gather's mine. You always leave it to me. But you watched me catch it, piece by piece, the whole night through, so I'll not lay it all out again like a shopkeeper counting stock. I've got it. Swing your door.
Fair enough. A shopkeeper you're not, which leaves precisely one door for next time, and it's the very half we've barely brushed tonight. All night we've watched a moving charge feel a field already hung in the space around it. We've said next to nothing about the other half, how a moving charge makes one.
The Ørsted half, the twitching compass needle. You showed me the wire feels a shove, and you mentioned in passing that it broadcasts a field of its own, but you never once drew me that field. What does the field made by a current actually look like, out there wrapped around the wire?
That's the whole of next time, and I'll leave you the one word to gnaw on, the way I always do at the door. The field a straight current makes doesn't spray out from the wire like spokes, and it doesn't run along it. It wraps around it, circles the wire, ring upon ring, like the grain in a plank curling round a knot. The field of a current curls.
It curls round the wire in rings, so a current doesn't fling its field out in straight spines the way a lone charge did. It winds it round itself in closed rings, which, of course, is another loop, isn't it? The magnet's lines closed into loops, and now the current's field curls into rings too. The loops keep coming back around.
And that's no accident, as you'll see. I'd wager you can already guess the rest of my habit. Counting up that curl, the way we once counted lines punching through a bag, hardens into yet another of the great laws, the next of the four. It's the one that finally ties the current to the field it spins up, cause bound to consequence. But that door's for next time, standing open.
Standing open, and I'll walk through it next week. The last word tonight, though, that's mine, the way it's always mine at the threshold.
It's yours. Send us off.
Then here's what I'm carrying into the dark. I came in dead certain a magnet and a charge were cousins who'd shove each other the instant they met, and I was wrong twice over before you'd even finished your first question. A still charge and a magnet have nothing to say to one another at all. It takes motion, plain movement, to wake the whole thing up.
Motion wakes it. Finish us out.
And when motion does wake it, the force it brings is the strangest I've met yet. It shoves sideways, square to everything I was looking at, and for all its shoving, it never does a single stroke of real work. It only ever steers. No lone poles anywhere to anchor it, so its lines run in closed rings. And underneath the lot, a rumour that it was never a second force, only electricity, seen from a moving seat. Next time the field a current spins up around itself, I'll be gnawing on it curls all week.